Welcome back. In today's session, we are going to learn about how to write a Java program to declare, initialize, access the elements of single dimensional as well as in multi-dimensional. First of all, let us start with the single dimensional array. Before we get into this program, let us try to learn some of the basics regarding the arrays. So an array is defined as collection of homogeneous elements which are stored in the contiguous memory location. So let us see how we can declare arrays in Java. Arrays in Java are declared using the syntax data type space variable name and then brackets. If it is in one dimensional, one bracket. If it is two dimensional, we need to mention the two brackets equal to. Now we need to give new. This is a keyword that we will use. Create a memory for an array elements and then data type space within the bracket you need to mention the size. So this is how we can declare an array in Java. Now let us see how we can initialize. So we can initialize an array in two different ways. Number one is directly we can assign variable name equal to, this is for the one dimensional, here the list of elements separated by comma. So you can understand. So this is one way. Other way, you can also make use of the index to initialize the individual members of an array. So for example, I am having an let us see one of the example for declaration of the array. So for the data type, I am going to make use of data type as an int a and then new int of 5. What this is going to do is, let us consider our JVM, where in the JVM the memory location is divided into 5 parts as we already discussed many times. Now let me tell you what will happen inside the memory. So we are going to consider this as an stack space and then this as an heap space. Whenever you declare a variable with a new keyword, automatically memory allocation will be done in the heap space itself. Now our array A is going to have the size of the 5. So that is the reason what will happen. It is going to create 5 contiguous memory location in the heap space, say at the location 1795 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So these are the 5 different elements, and then in the stack space for that variable A, this reference is now stored. So that is how memory allocation will be done in an arrays in Java JVM. This is the stack space. This is the heap space. And in order to access the elements in an array, we will use access the elements in an array, we use index. So index of an array always starts with 0 and ends with size -1. That means the first element is stored at the location stored at index 0. Second element stored at index 1, and so on. Last element will be stored at index size -1. So likewise, we use the index to access the elements. Suppose if we want to initialize, read, or display any element of an array, then we can make use of this index. For example, how do we access that? A of 0 equal to 25. This means in the first location of the array, so let us consider this as in first location, right? So in this first location of the array, now I am going to store the value 25. Similarly, if I would like to read the element of this first location, then what I am going to do is I am going to say a of 0 using the scanner class equal to sc dot next int. Since a is a integer value, and then consider sc as an object for the scanner class, then we can make use of this sc dot next int method to read an integer and then store that in a of 0. Then automatically this will accept the input from the user and stores that value in 0th location of 0th index, which means the first location, right? Similarly, if we want to display the first element, then what we are going to do is we are going to simply use the system.out.print, and then we are going to display the value a of 0 directly. So this is how we can read the element, initialize the element, as well as then display the element of an array. So all the time it is suggested to use loops for doing very optimum coding in your Java program. So the best fit for this arrays usage will be the for loop. Let me give you a small recap what we can give the syntax for the for loop. For initialization, test semicolon, test condition semicolon, and then increment, and then you can write down the statement list. These brackets are optional. If you want to iterate only one single statement, then you can make use of you need not to have the opening bracket as well as in closing bracket. So these are all some of the basics to operate with the arrays in Java. So this is about the one-dimensional array. Now let us see how we can declare the elements in two-dimensional array. For the two-dimensional array, we are going to use a similar kind of an approach. Int a of, this is how we are going to declare new int of. Now we need to give the number of rows as well as in number of columns, semicolon. So now what will happen? We are going to create a table of the elements in the heap space, and then that address will be given to this A. So now we are going to have, for example, if we give 2 comma 5, then that will be like this, right? So in the first space, now we are going to have this element is nothing but the 0 0, this is 0 1, this is 0 2, 0 3, 0 4, and then this one is in 1 0, 1 1, 1 2, 1 3, 1 4. Likewise, we can access the elements. Now in order to initialize these arrays of the elements, so what we can do is simply you can have a variable name equal to you can use one more bracket to initialize the inner elements, list of elements in row 1, comma, and so on. Likewise, you can give any number of elements, finally last list, as well as in closing bracket and then semicolon. So likewise we can initialize. Otherwise you can also make use of the loop to initialize the individual elements of two-dimensional array. Similarly, in order to access the elements in the two-dimensional array, we are going to make use of the index position, such as an A of row -1, column -1. For example, I would like to access the first row, first column element, then I will be make use of element, right? I will be make use of this initialization. How I can make use of the element, how I can make use of this? Simply, for example, I would like to initialize the first row, first column, then A of 0 as well as in 0 equal to 45. Similarly, I would like to initialize the first row, second column, A of 0 1 equal to 55. So likewise I can initialize all the elements in a two-dimensional array. So this is for the initialization. Similarly, in order to read the elements, simply the same thing, A of row -1, column -1 equal to sc dot next int, provided sc is the object for the scanner. So similarly, in order to display the element of the two-dimensional array, simply system dot out dot print of A of row -1 as well as in column -1. So this is how we are going to use for displaying the elements of the two-dimensional array. So now, using all these basics, let us try to build one program to read the elements of an one-dimensional array and display them. Similarly, to read the elements of two-dimensional array and display them. Okay, let's get started. Now let me open it. Notepad one-time.java. Now space bar. Now class one time, open bracket, closing bracket. Now I am going to use public static void main string args closing bracket and then opening bracket. I'll save. Now what you can do, you need to declare you need to import the util package. In order to import the util package, import java.util.star. Similarly, now what we need to do, we need to create an object for the scanner for reading. Before doing that, let us try to declare an one-dimensional array. How we can declare? Int data type. Let's use the syntax data type space variable name within the bracket empty square brackets equal to new data type of size, right? So I just wanted to create and then finally semicolon. I would like to create an integer array of the size 5. Then I am going to make use of the int b equal to new int of 5. So now it is going to create the 5 empty locations and then it is going to it is going to store the reference of all these 5 locations in B. Now this is one way. Other way is you can also make use of the declaration just like this. Simply what you can do, int b of semicolon, and then you can read what is the size that you would like to allocate, and then later be equal to new int of you can assign that n value. How you can do that? Simply system dot out dot println enter n value n equal to sc dot next int. In order to make use of this sc, we need to declare this sc. So scanner sc equal to new scanner of system dot in. So this may raise an exception. So that is the reason I am going to use throws exception. So this is the method 1. Let us try both the methods. This is the method 1. This is the method 2. So in the method 1, directly we are giving the static size, which is nothing but the 5. And in the method 2, what we are doing is we are asking the user to decide his own size for the integer array, and then based on this we are going to assign. Right, so this is how we can declare an array. File save. Now let us try to compile and check what will happen till now. Java C 1 dim dot java. We have declared that integer n. We can declare that integer n as int space n. Now compile again, execute java space 1 dim. So now it is asking me to enter what is the size of. So now an array of the size 4 will be created now. Based on the size, I just wanted to read how many number of elements. So in order to read the number of the elements in an array, so I can make use of the for loop for int I equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus, opening bracket, closing bracket. Now I just wanted to ask the user to input the number of the elements. So system dot out dot println enter plus I plus 1 plus element. Similarly, I just wanted to read the ith element. If you want to read the ith element, b of I equal to sc dot next end. So that is how we will accept the input from the user, and then we can store that in the array. Similarly, in order to display elements of this is for the reading of the one-dimensional array, reading elements of one-dimensional array, and let us use the similar kind of the code for displaying. Control C and then let me print. So let me make it simple. Control X, Control V. Now what I am doing is I am simply displaying the message, the elements of elements in array are. I am going to simply remove this, and then I am going to make use of the system dot out dot println print a of I b of I followed by, I just wanted to use some space or comma, right? So some space, comma, some space, that's all. That is how I am going to display all the elements. So what we have done, let us do some small recap. We declared an array, and then we read what is the size of this array, and then based on the number of elements, we read all the elements in the array. Similarly, we use the display method system.out.println and then display the elements of one-dimensional array. Let us try to execute this program. In order to execute, first we need to compile this. We don't have any errors. Execute. Now it is asking me to enter what is the size. Let me give for first element 1 2 3 4. Now you can observe that we could able to create, and then we could able to read the elements in an array as well as in display the elements. Similarly, if you would like to initialize the elements as well as in display, so let us make a small modification in this program. Instead of reading, simply what I am doing is I am just keeping them in the comment /. Now let me make use of let me change the small let me do the small change in the code declaration part also. Right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm making use of this and then changing here. Instead of this, I just wanted to initialize directly. So I'm going to use 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4. So this is about the 4 elements. Now you have a method. Now you have a variable called as a length in the array. So instead of the n, you can write down b dot length. So similarly, sorry, not here. Not here. Here as it is same, but in the display I don't know what is the size of the number of the elements, so I am going to use b dot length. File save. Now what we have done, how many number of the elements that you declared in this array, all those values are displayed here. We are not reading anything, directly we initialize the value and then we are trying to display that. In order to do that, Java C one dimensional array, Java one dimensional. Now we got all the values through the initialization. So this is about the creating or declaring the array, reading and initializing the one-dimensional array, similarly displaying all the elements statically as well as dynamically. That is for one-dimensional array, guys. Now let us see what we can do for the two-dimensional array. So in order to do that, notepad space notepad space to dim dot jar. So I am making use of the code which I already had for one dimensional notepad one dim dot jar. Make necessary changes so that I can save some time. Control space bar is. Instead of the one time, I am going to change it to two time, right? Two time. Now I am removing everything here, here too. Now my code is almost ready. So this is my two-dimensional array declaration. Now for reading the elements, I am going to use create an object for the scanner. Sc equal to new scanner of system dot in. This is creation of the object of the scanner class. Now let me declare the two-dimensional array of the size, let us say 3 by 3. So in order to declare that, int b two-dimensional array equal to new int of some 3 as well as in 3. Now what shall we do? This is for the declaration. Now let us try to read the elements. So this thing you can also split in two ways. So let me declare here and then be equal to int 3 of 3. So in this way also you can declare, right? So this is one more way. And then coming to reading the elements of the two-dimensional array, I am going to use nested loops. So for int I equal to 0, I less than 3, because the number of rows are nothing but 3, I plus plus. Similarly, this is for every row, and then let me use one more for int j equal to 0, j less than 3, j plus plus. Now simply inside this, let me read the value b of I as well as in j equal to sc dot next int. So what it is going to do is, it is going to read the element and then store it in ith row and then jth column, right? So now let me display some message. System dot out dot println enter element in plus I row plus j plus column. That's all, right? So now it is going to read all the elements comfortably and then store it in the I, ith row as well as in jth column. So in order to give that I plus 1, similarly j plus 1, 5, 6. Now let us compile this code and then check what we are getting. Till now it is always suggested to have the incremental compilation. Okay, till now I don't get any error. Now let me repeat the same process. Use the two-dimensional array to display. How we can do that? Simply I am going to replace this with the simple system dot out dot println print of v of I j plus, let me give some tab space afterwards, backslash t, and then after every row I just wanted to insert a new line. So system dot out dot println println, that's all, that is enough, right? So it is going to give a new line, that's all. For the display purpose, system dot out dot println the elements in two-dimensional array are, just I am going to display that file space, save, and then let me compile this code and execute. So Java C, and then next one is Java, right? Java space to dim. So now it is asking me the elements of the first row, first column. Let me give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Because 3 rows and then 3 columns, I have inserted all the elements of the 3 rows of the 3 columns. And let me check whether it is coming in our desired fashion or not. See, this is about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. First row, first column 1, first row, second column 2, first row, third column 3. So this is how you can read read the two-dimensional array and then display that. Let us see some of the other things. So here, instead of the reading, if you want to initialize that, then simply keep it in the comments. Now what you can do, simply put this one also in comments. Now directly you can assign equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Since it is 3 rows and then 3 columns, that's all, semicolon. Now it will automatically create, and then if you want to display that, simply you can display using the same code. So let me compile this code and then execute Java C, two-dimensional, and then Java. See, now without creation, directly you can. And instead of this 3, if you want to get the number of rows, directly you can say v dot length. So this will repeat for how many number of rows in this two-dimensional array, that much of the values that it is going. Similarly, for every row, how many number of the columns, if you want to define, simply v of I dot length. So you can make use of these two things, and then you can repeat the same process, compile, run, you will get the same output. And one more specialty with this, in Java you need not to have all the rows as well as all the rows of the same size. In the sense, you can have three elements in the first row, two elements in the second row, four elements in the third row. You can do that. File save. Now let me compile this code and then execute. See, now you are having that variable size, the number of rows as well as the number of columns, isn't it? So that is the very important point and then differentiating factor for two-dimensional arrays or multi-dimensional arrays in Java, right? So this is how we can use this. I am going to upload both the one dimensional as well as in two dimensional in the description. Thank you for listening to this session. Thank you. Have a great day.